Hi, welcome to our channel of IGNOU Audiobooks, Indira Gandhi National Open University, School of Tourism and Hospitality Service Management, SOTHSM, Bachelor's Degree, BA. Vocational Studies Tourism Management, BAVTM, CBCS, BTMC-131 History of Tourism I, Block-1 Tourism Phenomenon. Unit-1 Understanding Tourism I. 1.0 Objectives. After reading this unit, you will be able to define tourism, understand the tourism phenomena, explain the characteristics of tourism, appreciate why and how it is a constantly changing activity, list the concepts of tourism, define a tourist product and destination, know what a tour is, and explain the different forms and types of tourism along with certain future trends. 1.1 Introduction. Tourism and tourist are words which are commonly heard or mentioned in everyday life. Pick up any newspaper and you will find some reference to tourism, i.e., in relation to government policy, tourist arrivals, products, destination, impact on economy, hostility or hospitality of the local people, etc. But how often have you attempted to understand the meaning of tourism or ask the question, who is a tourist? Well, this unit attempts to define for you the words, tourism, and tourist, both technically as well as conceptually. Then it goes on to comprehend the concepts related to tourism and its characteristics. It also takes into account the different forms and types of tourism along with explaining to you the terms like tourist destination and tourism product, etc. 1.2 Tourism Phenomenon. Tourism is concerned with pleasure, holidays, travel and going or arriving somewhere. These are the motivations that make people leave their normal place of work and residence for short-term temporary visits to other places. Tourism is concerned with consuming goods and services. For example, you need some mode of transport, some form of accommodation to stay and so on. However, the only reason for the consumption of such services and goods is that we have a pleasurable experience or that we enjoy ourselves. A part of the enjoyment is in the fact that these goods and services are different from what we typically consume every day. Another aspect of our enjoyment is that we look at a set of different landscapes, cultures and lifestyles, and see different people and hear other languages, etc. Because we are going away, what we look at and experience becomes something out of the ordinary, something unique. In fact, we do anticipate the new experience and this leads us to view it with greater interest and curiosity. However, few of us realize that the production of this pleasant experience is made possible because of many professionals and experts as they develop and construct our viewing and experience. How this experience has changed and developed depends on a variety of factors like, which historic period we are looking at, social groups we belong to, and the society we live in. Therefore, based on the tourist gaze is, therefore, based on a difference, i.e., the difference between the practice of tourism and other non-tourism social practices, like paid work and domestic life, or like the difference between taking a bus to go for work and taking a bus to a tourist destination. Tourism, as a significant social phenomenon, involves a temporary break with normal routine to engage with experiences that contrast with everyday life, with the mundane. Almost all travel types, the explorer, the pilgrim, the monk, the merchant, the student, the missionary, the hermit, the refugee, the conqueror, the cure seeker, etc. can be cited as prototypes of the modern tourist. 1.3 What is tourism? Well, the term tourism comprises several social practices. All these have the minimal common characteristic, that they are different and they are a departure from normal life. These minimal characteristics help us to define tourism, which according to the WTO, is the movement of people away from their normal place of residence and work for a period of not less than 24 hours and not more than 1 year. Tourism in fact is a leisure activity because it coexists with its opposite, that is regulated and organized work. This shows us that in modern societies work and leisure are organized as separate and regulated areas of social practice. They are located in specific places and
We
periods
must
of
remember
time.
that tourism sites are
not connected with paid work
and they
preferably offer
various
some contrast with
destinations.
sites where a person's
This
work and
involves a
residence are
journey and
located.
services
like
A
transport,
substantial
accommodation,
proportion of the
catering
population
and viewing
engages in
etc.
going away on holiday.
The journey to and stay at a
Hence,
site is
new
outside the
socialized
normal
forms
place
of the
of work
provision
and
for
residence
goods and
and
services are
services are
developed
in order to
There is
cater
a
to the
clear
mass
intention
character
when
of tourism
going away
practices.
to return home.
The tourist is, therefore, different from the traveler, because travel has an individual character whereas tourism has a mass character. Tourism is directed at places chosen for the anticipation, often built on daydreaming and fantasy, of intense pleasure because such places are different to what we normally encounter. Such anticipation is sustained through a variety of experiences which influence our daily lives like film, TV, fiction, magazines, records, videos etc. which construct and reinforce our image of a tourist destination. The tourist's gaze is directed towards a landscape, a town or an event by pointing out those features that separate it from everyday life. Whilst many features are viewed because they are out of the ordinary, there is much more emphasis on the visual elements because we have seen it before through photographs, postcards, films etc. In fact, we recapture the site through personal experience. Tourism, therefore, also involves the recognition and collection of signs that represent a reality of another time and another place. For example, camel rides in the desert for a person who resides in the hills. A number of tourism professionals emerge and develop these signs. They attempt to create new and newer objects for the consumption of the tourist's gaze. What they produce and why it becomes an object of tourism, or why it becomes popular depends on the competition between the travel trade for the attention of the tourist on the one hand, and on the other, the changing class, gender and generational distinctions of taste within the group of potential visitors. For example, one may stay in a 5-star hotel or a yatri niwas, one may take a pilgrimage or a beach holiday, one may go on a package tour or take a trekking holiday alone. Finally, tourism has also become a status symbol in modern society and thought to be necessary to one's health. Many new tourist sites are opening all over the world and tourism is now a global phenomena. 1.4 Concepts. Film, pleasure and entertainment are concepts popularly associated with tourism. Many writers like Boston and Baudrillard have said that because tourists travel in guided groups isolated from the host environment and people, as they are encapsulated in planes, hotels and air-conditioned buses, they remain in an environmental bubble. Such tourists look for Western facilities wherever they go and therefore they participate in pseudo-events, because they do not encounter the real world on the street level. As a consequence, tourist entrepreneurs and the local people produce displays for gullible tourists. These, over time and with the help of the media, become images which are the basis of illusions associated with the sites where tourism occurs. Thus, there is a paradox in understanding tourism, which is defined by its opposite, work and routine, yet it is engaged in reproducing the familiar, like hotels, etc., which insulate the tourist from the strangeness of the destination or the host environment. The mass society tourist is located in a very secure and protected environment where his senses are necessarily restricted. The tourist never learns to decipher the complex and alien cultures which cannot be simplified and mass-produced easily. Hence, we end up with a monotonous image of a uniform concept of tourism as hotel, beach and local color. But tourism is not only a mass phenomenon. Cohen maintains that there are a variety of tourist types and modes of tourist experience. Hence, it is necessary to define the tourist, understand how tourism emerges from a basic division between the ordinary, everyday and the extraordinary. Explain the characteristics of the tourist product. List types of destinations and identify their attractions, and explain what is a tour. 1.4.1 Defining tourism. Over the years, the definition of tourism has undergone a change along with the historical changes. According to Hunziker and Krapp, tourism is the sum of phenomena and relationships arising from the travel and stay of non-residents, insofar as it do not lead to permanent residence and is not connected to any earning activity. This definition emphasizes travel and stay, but excludes day trips, business trips, etc., and the overlapping of these boundaries with other practices. The League of Nations in 1937 recommended that tourism covers the social activity of those who travel for a period of 24 hours or more in a country other than the one a person usually lives in. However, the limitation of this definition was that it excluded domestic and emphasized only on international tourism. The Rome Conference on Tourism in 1963 adopted the recommendation to replace the term tourist with the term visitor, and defined tourism as a visit to a country other than one's own or where one usually resides and works, for the following reasons. 1. Tourism, the activity of temporary visitors staying at least 24 hours for leisure, business, family, mission or meeting. 2. Excursion, the activity of a temporary visitor staying less than 24 hours but excluding people in transit. This definition also excluded the domestic tourist, although it did recognize the day visitor. The Tourism Society of Britain in 1976 proposed to clarify the concept of tourism by saying that tourism is the temporary, short-term movement of people to destinations outside the places where they normally live and work and their activities during their stay at these destinations, including day visits and excursions. AIEST in 1981 refined this concept and held that tourism may be defined in terms of particular activities selected by choice and undertaken outside the home environment. Tourism may or may not involve overnight stays away from home. These definitions indicate that tourism has expanded in its range and scope. The concept of tourism has broadened to include all forms of the phenomenon of leisure activity. Today we may define mass tourism as the quest of someone who travels to see something different and is dissatisfied when he finds that things are not the same as at home. This definition reflects the orientation of global tourism, which is concentrated in Western societies where 60% of international tourist arrivals are received and from where 70% of the tourists originate. Because the control of tourism is centered in the West, the concepts associated with tourism are necessarily influenced by the social practices of these societies rather than the travel heritage of the non-Western cultures in developing societies. The movement of tourists from the place of origin to the destination is further described as international tourism, when the travel is from one country to another, and domestic tourism, when the travel is within the country, i.e., trips taken by a tourist within her own country or where the origin and destination are in the same country. In international tourism you will come across two other terms. Inbound, this refers to tourists entering a country. 2. Outbound, this refers to tourists leaving their country of origin for another. However, these terms apply in the case of outward travel only at its beginning. We must remember that on the journey back a tourist is only returning to the place of residence and he cannot be termed as inbound tourist. But at the same time an outbound tourist can also be an inbound tourist. For example, you decide to go to Cuba. From the point of view of India you will be described as an outbound tourist but Cuba will describe you as an inbound tourist. International tourism. Look at the screen. 1.4.2 Tourism Products and Services. In relation to tourism, very often you will come across terms like tourism products and services. Here we attempt to define them. The purchase of a tour is a speculative investment by the tourist, who anticipates the pleasure the consumption of such a product will result in tourist consumption, and anticipation are related to services that after the basic necessities and comforts are provided, leisure activities are also organized. However, it has often been said that selling tours is similar to selling dreams. For example, a tour is more than buying a mere collection of services like an aircraft seat, a hotel bed, meals and the opportunity to see the Taj Mahal. The tourist is buying, temporarily, a strange environment including unique climatic and geographical features and intangible benefits like bargain, luxury service, hospitality, atmosphere, a culture and heritage. The tourist product is, therefore, both a physical as well as psychological construction which is challenged to transform dreams into reality. The problem in meeting such a challenge is that different cultures have different priorities and codes, but the global tourism professional requires a universal, often termed as Western, standard of satisfaction. Apart from the problem of quality control, there is always the element of chance which can destroy the most well-organized tour. This can be due to natural or man-made reasons, accidents or sudden and unforeseen circumstances. Risks are higher in tourism services because these services are considered luxuries and often not given the same attention as essential services. Local people often express hostility to tourism because they see it as an expression of five-star culture, extending the gap between their lifestyle and that of the tourist. For the producer of the service, there are also risks. Travel services are consumed en route and at the destination. They cannot be tested, seen, sampled or compared in advance. They depend on a reputation earned by the satisfaction of previous users and on advertising. Services are also created in a particular historical and social context and are affected by a work culture. Moreover, the supply of services is fixed and created in advance, and the risk of underconsumption has to be borne by the producer because travel services cannot be stored. For example, an unused aircraft seat or an empty hotel room cannot be carried over to another day or time or place. It has a value where and when it is offered for use. Thus, the carrying capacity and demand for a service have to be carefully assessed and estimated. For example, it is often claimed that one of the constraints for tourist movement in India is the shortage of airline seats. To make up for this, with the permission of the government, private airlines are allowed to enter the international market. As a result, they have introduced reduced rate flights, keeping in mind the middle class people. In tourism, demand is often irrational and trends also change rapidly. But the building up of service often requires a lead time. Once a capacity is offered, the hotel and transport service for example, it often lasts longer than the demand for it. This requires great ingenuity on the part of the producer to ensure that the service remains profitable. In developing countries, the risks cannot be carried from one tourist season to another. Apart from the demand-supply constraints and sociopolitical factors, operators and providers of service are also affected by weather conditions, like hot weather and the monsoons. They are also constrained by a lack of capital to invest in marketing. In many cases, they depend to a large extent on the informal sector or what is learned as the tout or broker. The tourist views the activities of such persons with suspicion and considers their method a harassment. However, the small-scale operator depends heavily on the oral application and direct contact of the informal services of touts and brokers for his profitability. Look at the screen. 1.4.3 Tours. Tours and their characteristics is closely linked to the motivation of the tourist. Motivation or purpose of a visit is usually holiday or vacation, including a visit with friends and relations. Meetings and conferences, including other business activities. Health and sports. Religion and culture, or special interests, including study tours, etc. Tour in the following ways. The purpose of visit determines the nature of the tour in the following ways. 1. Are you free to choose tour destination? 2. Is price a constraint? 3. Is time a constraint? 4. Is quality a determining factor? 5. What facilities and services do you require? Tours can be within national boundaries or in any place in the world. Such a decision will have an impact on the economy of both the country of origin and the tourist's destination site. Tours also focus on unique natural or geographical features like the coastline, islands, mountains, health resorts, countryside, etc. At such locations, the provision of tourist services and the pressure of tourists are bound to have impacts on the environment, economy, local social practices and on the people. Look at the screen. The time period a tour includes will depend on factors like holiday period, price, attractions and activities, single destination or multiple destination, package itinerary or individual travel, and inclusive arrangements are special interest tours, etc. In the case of an independent or tailor-made tour, the visitor buys services individually. This he does either by making reservations in advance, directly or through a travel agent, or on an ad hoc basis during the tour. The latter is called a walk-in arrangement, which depends on availability. A package or inclusive tour is an arrangement in which transport and accommodation are purchased at an inclusive price. This means that the prices of the individual components of the services required by the tourist cannot be determined by the buyer. Packages are assembled by tour operators who buy the individual elements in advance from the producers and the wholesalers. Because these services are bought in advance in large numbers, the tour operator buys at a special discount price, 20% to 30% lower than the market price. He then sells individual and group tours either directly or through travel agents who are performing the retail function. For this, travel agents earn a commission, 2% to 10%. Tourist services are also accordingly diverse to suit all the aspects of demand. For example, 1. Transport services can be scheduled, run according to a timetable, chartered, according to demand. 2. Accommodation can be in the formal, hotel, sector or the subsidiary sector, guest house, campsite, apartment on rent, etc. 3. Catering can be on a meal plan which includes a variety of options. For example, American plan including 3 meals, Modified American plan including breakfast and lunch or dinner, and European plan including breakfast only. 4. Local transfers and sightseeing can be organized by coach, taxi, etc. For those who like to do things on their own, the rent-a-car option is also available. 1.4.4 Tourists. The tourist, apart from being a holiday maker or businessman, can also be segregated in terms of region, nationality, socioeconomic class, age and sex. Behavioral aspects like stage in the life cycle, personality and educational levels also help the producer of services to design products that fit specific target groups or market segments. This is termed as profiling the tourist. Such a definitive refinement helps us to collect data on what the tourist is really looking for at the destination. Such data also helps us to understand tourism and to see how travel and tourism-related practices differ between different markets. Such information helps the industry to design products and develop strategies appropriate to the needs of the market. Such data also enables activists, who may be local activists or networking with international groups, to control the form of tourism being developed at a particular destination and to intervene in the type of development being planned, and maximize the benefits from tourism and to minimize negative impacts. 1.4.5 The tourist destination. A destination is both a site and an event, and these two factors are the attractions. In a site attraction, a location exercises appeal like the Shimla Hills, the Kerala coastline or the Khajuraho temple complex. With an event acting as a pull, tourists are drawn to a particular place because of what is happening at that location. Where both site and event are attractions, like the Konark Dance Festival or the Elephant March or boat race in Kerala, the success of such a destination multiplies. Destinations can be spread over a wide geographical area. The attraction to a destination lies in the image it has or the attractions it offers. 1.5 Tourism, Forms and Types. Today people are feverishly participating in tourism. This may include short trips during the long weekend breaks or longer journeys during holidays. Old age pensioners have a dream of retiring to a place where the weather is good and the price is low. Without any outside pressure, millions of people flock to destinations of their own free will. Long lines of cars, crowded buses, trains and jumbo jets go all over the world. As a result, the beaches become too small, shops and restaurants too crowded, porting facilities and the environment degraded and worn down with years of being admired and used, and the world shrinks. For an increasing number of people, work is no longer the main purpose of life, and this encourages tourism. Modern tourism is one of the most striking phenomena of our times, and tourism offers us an opportunity to learn, to enrich humanity and to identify what may be termed as goals for a better life and a better society. But conservationists want to change things. They want to arrest the spread of the landscape eaters, who have transformed the countryside with their mass migration. Forms and types of tourism emerge within the context of changing social values. For example, in modern society, the value of being has been superseded by the value of having. Possession, property, wealth, egoism and consumption have become more important than community, tolerance, moderation, sensibility and modesty. As a result, in all parts of the world, economy is characterized by increasing concentration of wealth, division of labor and specialization. Environment is being treated as if resources are renewable. The limits of ecosystems are stretched without considering the negative aspects, and people's rights are constantly eroded to meet the needs of the power system, etc. Forms of tourism emerge from different fields of tension such as work, rest, awake, asleep, exertion, relaxation, income, expenditure, job, family, freedom, necessity, risk, security. Similarly, dirt, noise, rush, pollution and trouble, etc. are all key expressions of such tension. The possibility of going away is very important in such a context. The desire for tourism is, therefore, determined socially. Governments promote tourism, people talk about their holidays, unions sponsor holidays, health insurance covers visits to spas, tax rebates are given for holiday homes and corporations reward employees with travel instead of bonus money. Seasonal pressures strengthen the urge to get away from home. Annual vacations, the media, literature and fashion all strengthen the holiday mania. The tourism industry whets the appetite with tantalizing offers of entertainment and pleasure. The commercialization of recreation functions within the well-established principles of a free market economy. In the past, in the erstwhile socialist countries, holiday homes and limited foreign travel were subsidized for workers. In India, our government provides to its employees subsidy on travel called the Leave Travel Concession, and companies provide holiday homes for their workers, but tourism is primarily a private enterprise. A study of tourist brochures indicates the successful design of a tourist visit. 1. Create a holiday mood by emphasizing informality, abandonment, serenity, freedom, and pleasure. 2. Show time, standing still, romanticism and relaxation, peace and space. 3. Show something beautiful that is not available at home. And typical holiday symbols like the sun, a beach umbrella, a palm-fringed coastline, etc. 4. Show people from other cultures, always beaming, happy, friendly and idle. All 4 ingredients from the tourism mix. However, in today's context, the different types of tourism are as follows. 1. Rest and recuperation. Taking a rest from everyday life, relieve the stress of societies that have shifted from manual to sedentary work. Tourism as diversion or compensation to holiday destinations is what may be called holiday or vacation travel, which is focused on resorts and beach holidays, both domestic and international. 2. Escape. Tourism is a mass flight from everyday reality to an imaginary world of freedom. This flight takes place within the movement from centers to peripheries, or in other words, a north-south migration. 3. Communication. Time with family and friends, make new friends, and spending quality time with family and friends, make new friends and acquaintances. This is mass tourism, in herds, enjoying the facilities of tourism enclaves. 4. Culture and education. Such tourism is based on sightseeing tours to experience and see other countries of the world, though not necessarily in depth. 5. Freedom. Tourism frees you from home and work and is directed towards facilities and comforts rather than experience. 6. Health. Visit spas, go to saunas, undergo cures for chronic ailment, visit health clubs for workouts or do yoga, i.e., travel for health. 7. Special interest tours. Is organized as per the special interests of the tourists, ranging from medical, historical, archaeological and other interests to golf or fishing. 8. Adventure and wildlife. Far away from modern civilization, with bearers and potters and mules, camels, elephants or jeeps, mixing trekking and hiking and camp life with the luxury of a first-class hotel. 9. Convention tourism. To mix leisure with work, holding convention or meetings at tourist destinations. Different forms of tourism also give rise to different types of tourists. 1. A budget tourist who books everything in advance and would look for cost-saving options such as local food, Airbnb, hostel etc. 2. The photojournalist who see the world through the lens of the camera and click almost everything from a good view to a scrumptious meal. 3. The naive tourist who is inexperienced in travel, always asks unnecessary questions and has no language skills. 4. The organized tourist who feels at home with a guide and a group of fellow tourists. 5. The selfie king, queen, and upsurge in the usage of social media have created a new category of tourist. They are often busy in taking selfies with literally everything. 6. The uncultured tourist who is a beach bum and spends his time lazing and eating. 7. The rich tourist who can afford anything, likes to show prosperity and enjoys being waited upon. In short, they are the luxury travelers. 8. The exploiting tourist who spends a holiday at the cost of people and takes advantage of their culture, hospitality and poverty. 9. The polluting tourist who demands that for his comfort everything can be flattened or destroyed. 10. The alternative tourist who explores the few untouched corners of the world, thus opening the way to mass tourism. 11. The adventurer who goes on hiking, long cycling trips and ditch the idea of staying in luxury hotels to get lost into wilderness. 12. The environmentally conscious tourist who makes efforts to make less negative impacts and look for green labels. Look at the screen. 1.6 Future Trends. A recent BBC program entitled, "Wish You Weren't Here," underlines the concern today at what the Golden Hordes have done to the world environment and fragile communities and cultures. There was a time when the UN promoted tourism because of its economic benefits, because 1. A transfer of wealth from the rich to the poor was possible. 2. Regional imbalances could be overcome in areas where there were no other developmental resources. 3. Provide employment to people with low educational and skill levels. 4. Give rise to economic growth with the circulation of the tourist dollar. With fresh emerging trends and newfound challenges faced by the tourism industry, UN has started promoting tourism in light of new dimensions. Tourism that is 1. Responsible. 2. Sustainable. 3. Universally accessible. 4. A driver of economic growth and inclusive development and 5. Environmental sustainability. After 4 decades of organized mass tourism, the concept of sustainable tourism was introduced in the UNCED, United Nations Conference on Environment and Development, at Rio de Janeiro in 1992. At the next conference in Stockholm, 20 years later, the groundbreaking bundle of policies was introduced, namely Agenda 21. This was created to serve as an instrument for sustainable development at international, national and local level. Local Agenda 21 emphasized on control of tourism by the local people at their pace and in answer to their needs. The essential aspect of sustainable tourism is the concept of carrying capacity, that is, a control on the number of tourists as well as the type of tourism to be developed. Carrying capacity is a concept that has to keep in mind the needs of A. The environment. B. The level of development, both economic and social. C. Culture. D. Population and its needs in the present and in the future. A. Tourism versus other forms of economic activity. Here we give you some of the projections made by the UNWTO and WTTC in relation to future trends. UNWTO initiated a long-term forecasting in the 1990s. The main objectives of this were to 1. Assist UNWTO members in policy making and strategic planning. 2. Provide global reference for future development of tourism. 3. Reinforce role of UNWTO in tourism. 4. Constitute a reference for UNWTO to monitor strategies, work and activities. Following are the projections of UNWTO and WTTC for future trends in tourism. A. There will be growth in international tourism but at moderate pace from 4.2% per year, 1980 to 2020, to 3.3%, 2010 to 2030. B. There is potential for future expansion. Emerging destinations will be more popular than the established ones. There will not be much change in purpose of visit. C. International tourist arrivals will increase up to 1.8 billion by 2030. D. Asia and the Pacific will gain most of the new arrivals, which will increase their share along with Middle East and Africa. A. Along with opportunities, challenges will also rise in maximizing the benefits of tourism while minimizing its negative impacts. These projections suggest that this long-term tourism growth pattern is more moderate, sustainable and inclusive. 1.7 Summary. You have seen that tourism is defined in different ways. It is crucial to note that the tourist has the understanding of coming back to the place of residence after being at the destination and having enjoyed the tourist products, attractions and services. There are different forms of tourism and so also the types of tourists with their own behavioral characteristics and interests. Over the years, different concepts have emerged in tourism. Tourism products and services play a vital role in tourists' movements. While looking at the future trends, a variety of factors have to be accounted for. For example, now there is emphasis on the alternative or sustainable tourism as people are beginning to assert their rights and demand controls. Thank you for watching. We will see you in the next video with the next chapter.